Wolfgang Mozart, Pablo Picasso, Louis Braille, Anne Frank, Stevie Wonder. All notable figures in our history for various reasons, Mozart, Picasso and Wonder for their contribution to our arts community in the form of music and paintings. Braille for creating a form of communication for the blind. Frank for her diary that she kept during the Holocaust, which led to further discoveries about the horrors of the Nazi genocide to European Jews. Besides the fact that each of these people have had such a huge impact and created such a huge change to our world, what else do they have in common? Each of them made their impact and change under the age of 16 years old. Wow. But those figures made their impact before the turn of the 21st century, so they don't even, they don't really matter to us right now, right? Wrong. Greta Thunberg, Malala, Jack Andraka, Sophie Cruz, Marley Diaz. Hands up if you've heard of Greta or Malala. Yeah. Two very well young known people who have sparked so much change around the world. Hands up if you've heard of Jack, Sophie or Marley. Three equally incredible young people who've sparked change. Jack developed a prototype inexpensive way to test for pancreatic cancer, which was a dipstick made of paper that could be used to analyse small drops of blood. He went on to win a number of awards for his creativity, including the Smithsonian Ingenuity American Award and also the Jefferson Award. Sophie gained national attention when she wrote a letter to Pope Francis asking him to advocate for undocumented immigrants like her parents living in the US. Marley launched the hashtag 100 Black Girl Books Twitter campaign to collect and donate books that would help empower black girls because she became frustrated at the lack of diversity in children's books. Since then, she's donated more than 9,000 books and spoken at various conferences. All 5 of them under the age of 18 when they first effected change. Now, there are some in our current society who wholeheartedly believe that young people in their community are bratty, entitled, and lazy. But young people have been affecting change around the world for centuries. I'd like to share a story of a young girl who isn't as widely known as Greta, but is someone who should absolutely be celebrated. The year is 1955, March 2nd in Montgomery, Alabama. 15-year-old Claudette Colvin was sitting on a public segregated bus when she was asked to move for a white woman. She refused and was then dragged from the bus by police and was arrested and jailed for disturbing the peace and for also breaking the segregation laws at the time. 9 months later, Rosa Parks, who was 42 at the time, had a similar experience. But Rosa gained a lot of admiration for her stand against racism. So why did Claudette get overlooked? Some say that a part of the bias against Claudette was because she was young and feisty. But that many adults at the time didn't trust young people to be the face of a cause or a case. It's a history lesson, but not for the reasons that you might think. Claudette isn't the only young person in this world to be ignored, overlooked, or to get some kind of backlash for what they're saying. Greta is an absolutely classic example. She's tried to call out our world leaders for their lack of urgency towards climate change. They've all labelled her as a mentally ill Swedish child and an unstable and millenarian weirdo. How empowering. Unfortunately, there seems to be a worldwide and never-ending trend that young people are constantly overlooked and ignored by adults simply because of our age. But we're really lucky here in Australia because our young people have opportunities and freedoms that other countries aren't so lucky to have. Just last month, I was speaking with the Fijian Assistant Minister for Children and Social Services and Women about the fact that the young people in her country don't have the opportunity to speak up. And she was trying to find ways where she could have her young people be able to advocate for the things that they want and they need in their country without being persecuted. Imagine that, just standing up, trying to speak for something that you care about or something that you want to change and being shut down and oppressed by the authorities. We all know that Fiji isn't the only country where this happens, but it's really scary to think what life must be like for those young people who don't get the chance to advocate for change or to advocate for the things that they want. But, like I said, we're really lucky here in Australia, but the freedoms that some of our young people get aren't for everyone. The federal age to be a young person is you need to be somewhere between the age of 12 and 25. But we have a divide between our 12 and 17-year-olds and our 18 and 25-year-olds. For example, we have a law that states that any person aged 16 and above can consent to activities of a sexual nature. Tell me this, how can a 16-year-old give consent to have intercourse, but they don't have a say in our democracy? How can a young person be able to do something like that and be labelled of sound mind, but they're not of sound mind to vote? Even though they have time to think clearly about what's going on, they have time to form an opinion, they can make a reasonable decision. How can a 16-year-old be of sound mind to operate a vehicle and drive on our roads, but they don't get a say in who their local and state members are? How can they be of sound mind to enter our workforce and contribute to our economy, but they don't get a chance to have a say in who runs our country? It's a little bit of a joke if you ask me. There is, however, a small beam of light for some young people across the country. Each year, the YMCA, which is a not-for-profit organisation, runs a program for young people throughout all the states and territories called Youth Parliament. Each youth parliament looks a little bit different. For the Victorian program, we allow 120 young people from across the state to come together, raise their voice on state-based issues and needs that are affecting them and their communities, whether that is in a small local town, a metro suburb, or the community of the young people in Victoria. They get the chance to draft a piece of potential legislation, sit in the chambers of Parliament House in Melbourne and debate on that, which I think is a really cool thing that our young people get to do. So much positive change for Victoria has come from this program. For example, the mandatory wearing of bicycle helmets, safe injecting centres, free and 24-hour public transport, the container deposit scheme, that all came from Youth Parliament. Young people in our state started that change. And our MPs listened. Each year, our program does ask our state MPs to come along and act as a chair, so they get to sit at the front and get to watch everything happening, similar to how, like this sort of thing. And they get to watch the debate and chair that. Every year they say the exact same thing to all of our young people. You're all so much more respectful and better behaved than we are. Imagine that. MPs saying that to young people under the age of 25. The MPs that come along, they do take our young people seriously and they give them space to be heard. It's a wondrous thing, but it's not something that happens too much of outside of this program, and that needs to change. Whoops. That one. So, what can we do to support the young people in our community? Well, it's not going to be an overnight fix. It's not something that can happen just like that. It might take a few years, but the more of us who get around our young people and start building them up, teaching them how to create change and empowering them to create change, the better our society will be for the future. I would like to see a future where young people are listened to and treated as equals so that they can engage in spaces like civics and government, because our young people are not the leaders of our future. They're the leaders of today.